Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night, gone to the bathroom, and then stood there for a moment, not just because of the usual trip, but because you felt something else, something missing? Maybe it's that quiet realization that what once felt strong, firm, alive, now just feels like a memory. You stare at yourself in the mirror, not judging, but wondering, when did I stop feeling like me down there? And worse, is this just the price I pay for getting older? Now, I've had more of these conversations than I can count. And let me tell you, what I'm about to share with you may sound simple, even too simple at first, but it's been the start of a transformation for thousands of men. Men just like you, men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, who thought the fire was out for good, until one small, natural change started waking everything back up. My name is Dr. Edward. I'm a retired urologist here in Greenville, South Carolina. Over the past 35 years, I've had the honor of helping older men reclaim something they thought they'd lost: their circulation, their confidence, and yes, their connection to that part of themselves most doctors are too uncomfortable to even talk about. So today, I want to show you something surprising. It's not a pill, not a pump, and definitely not a lecture. It's just one simple ingredient, one spoon before bed, that nourishes blood flow in a way most men never hear about. And it starts working from the very first night. This is what I call bedtime nourishment for your manhood. And by the time we're through, you'll understand not only why it works, but how it could quietly bring back the life you've been missing down below. So go ahead, subscribe, and click the bell, because what we're about to explore, it only gets more interesting. And if you don't mind, write in the comments which city you're watching from. I do read every single one, and it helps me know who I'm really talking to. Now, let me ask you something, and I want you to really think about this. When did you last feel a full, deep sense of blood flow in your lower body? Not just arousal, but aliveness. For most men, it fades so slowly that don't even realize it's gone until it's been gone for years. What used to take a moment now takes forever, if it happens at all. The spark doesn't just dim, it flickers until it's barely there. But what if that flicker could become a flame again? You see, we've been led to believe that the male body just breaks down after a certain age, that it's normal for erections to weaken, for energy to fade, for desire to dry up. But that's not the truth. Not all. The body doesn't break. It whispers. It tries to adapt. And then, when we ignore those whispers, when we mistake them for failure, it shuts down. Not because it wants to, but because it's not getting what it needs. Now, here's the part most men never get to hear. Your blood is your life force. It's the messenger, the carrier, the power source behind every erection, every moment of pleasure, and every ounce of vitality you feel as a man. But over time, and especially after 55, that blood gets thick. It gets slow. It gets choked by inflammation, by poor circulation, by habits we never questioned when we were younger. And the pipes that used to flow freely, they clogged. Imagine your penis like the faucet at the end of an old garden hose. You turn on, but the water barely trickles. Not because the faucet's broken, but because the hose is kinked somewhere along the line. That's your blood flow. That's your inner circulation. And unless you do something to release that pressure, to nourish those vessels, nothing changes. But what if you could nourish them? Not with drugs, not with pressure, but with something natural, something you probably already have in your kitchen right now? That's exactly what I'm going to share with you in the next part of this video. Because there's a small, surprising natural ingredient, one spoon before bed, that's been quietly helping older men restore their blood flow and revive their sensitivity. And it's not some internet gimmick. It's real. It's backed by science. And more importantly, it's something I've seen work in my own practice for years. But before I tell you what it is, we need to go a little deeper. Because the real issue isn't just the blood flow. It's what's clogging the system. And until we understand that, Until we clear the path, no remedy in the world will do a thing. Let's talk about what's really happening down there as we age. Not just in theory, but in your body right now. Let's talk about the real issue. The one most men never see coming, because it doesn't announce itself with a bang. It shows up quietly. At first, you just feel a little slower to respond. Then you notice you're not waking up with the same firmness you used to. Maybe your desire is there, but your body doesn't cooperate. And deep down, you wonder, is this what getting older feels like? But here's what I want you to hear from me, man to man. This isn't just aging. Not by a long shot. This is congestion. Internal, invisible, dangerous congestion that's choking off the very fuel your body needs to feel like a man again. Think of your circulatory system like a network of old plumbing. When you were younger, that system was wide open, strong, flexible, full of flow. But over time, as life wore on, stress, poor sleep, processed foods, lack of movement, your pipes began to narrow. Not all at once, just a little here, a little there, until one day you turn the valve and nothing comes out. And where do those clogs show up first? Not in your arms, not in your legs, but in your most sensitive and delicate vessels, the ones in your groin, the ones responsible for erections, sensation, even confidence. Because those vessels are thinner than a human hair, and they're the first to suffer when blood stops flowing like it should. Now I know how this sounds. Maybe you're thinking, Doc, if this is true, why didn't my regular doctor ever mention it? And the answer is simple. Most physicians are trained to treat problems after they show up on a chart. High blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease. But the changes I'm talking about, they happen years before those diagnoses. In the dark, quietly, while you're still functional, just not at your best. Let me give you an example. A patient of mine, we'll call him Paul, came in at 68. Retired contractor, strong guy, always kept himself busy. But he looked tired, not in his face, in his spirit. He sat down and said, Doc, it's not that I can't perform. I just don't feel it anymore. Like the engine's running, but there's no oil in it. That hit me hard, because I've heard that metaphor from men over and over again. And they're right. When blood flow weakens, it's like running an engine dry. The parts are all there, but they grind. They stick. They lose their spark. And eventually, they stop firing altogether. But the worst part? You don't notice it right away, because the decline is so slow, so subtle, that it feels normal. Like the frog in the pot. The water gets hotter, but he never jumps out. That's what happens to your circulation over 55. And that's why you need to pay attention now, not later. And blood isn't the only issue. There's another layer to this that most men never consider: inflammation. The silent thief. I call it that because it doesn't shout. It whispers. It seeps into your tissues, your blood vessels, even your nerves, and it starts cutting off the communication between your brain and your body. This is the stuff no one wants to talk about, but it's real. I've seen men with perfect testosterone levels, strong hearts, clear arteries, and still no fire down below. Why? Because inflammation had short-circuited their system. The wires were intact, but the signal wasn't getting through. Paul was one of them. His labs looked decent. His stress levels weren't terrible. But his C-reactive protein, a marker for internal inflammation, was through the roof. And that told me everything I needed to know. His body was inflamed. His blood was thick. His vessels were tight. No wonder nothing was working. So he started working from the inside out. Not with drugs, not with more pressure, but by removing the blocks that were getting in the way of what his body already wanted to do. Because that's the truth, friend. Your body hasn't forgotten how to perform. It hasn't lost the map. It's just surrounded by too much noise, too many obstacles, and too little support. Give it the right environment, and it responds. Sometimes faster than you believe. But the mistake most men make, they go straight for the fix, the pill, the shortcut, the stimulation. And all that does is light a fire under a clogged pipe. Sure, it might work for a night, but over time, it makes the problem worse. Because if the foundation isn't right, if the pipes are still tight, if the inflammation's still there, no amount of pressure will give you the results you want. You have to start with nourishment, with gentle, daily circulation support. And yes, with just one spoon before bed. That's the part I'll show you next. But I want you to remember Paul, because 2 weeks after we started his new bedtime routine, he walked into my office with a grin. "Doc," he said, "I woke up this morning and let's just say I had to take a moment before I got out of bed." His wife noticed too, and not just in the bedroom. She said he looked lighter, more alive, like a man with something stirring inside him again. And that's exactly what the right blood flow can do. It brings more than just physical strength. It brings back confidence. It brings back joy. So the question is, what's in that one spoon before bed that started waking Paul's body back up? Stay with me, because in the next part, I'll show you the first natural method I shared with him and why it worked, not just for him, but for thousands of other men who thought they were too far gone. It all started with a simple question. "Doc, is there something I can do before bed, something natural that actually makes a difference?" That was Paul again, the same gentleman I told you about. After years of frustration and false starts, he wasn't looking for magic. He just wanted to feel progress. Something real. Something he could do with his own 2 hands that told his body, "I'm still here and I still care." I looked him in the eye and I said, "Yes, there is." And what I told him next, he almost didn't believe. Because the answer wasn't some exotic supplement. It wasn't a prescription. It was something sitting quietly in his kitchen. A white powder, so ordinary, most people only use it for cleaning or baking. Baking soda. Yes, that's right. Sodium bicarbonate. But before you shake your head, let me explain why this one small spoon, taken at the right time, in the right way, has made such a profound difference for older men like Paul and might do the same for you. When we talk about blood flow, what we're really talking about is chemistry. Not just the vessels, but the environment inside them. And as we age, our internal chemistry changes, often in ways that sabotage circulation without us even realizing it. Here's what I mean. As the body grows older, it tends to drift toward acidity. Your pH, that delicate balance that regulates everything from enzyme activity to oxygen delivery, starts tipping in the wrong direction. And when that happens, your blood becomes just a little more sluggish. Your vessels grow tight. Your nitric oxide, the chemical that tells your arteries to open, starts to disappear. Think of it like driving through fog. The road's still there. The engine still runs. But everything slows down. Visibility drops. You become hesitant. That's what acidic blood does to your erections. It clouds the system. It chokes the signal. It creates tension where there should be ease. Now here's where baking soda comes in. When taken properly, I usually recommend half a teaspoon stirred into a glass of water, ideally 30 to 60 minutes before bed. It gently neutralizes the excess acid in your system. Not aggressively, not in a way that shocks the body, but gently, like a warm breeze clearing the fog off the road. Your blood pH rises just slightly, enough to restore the flow, support nitric oxide, and improve oxygen delivery to the tissues that need it most. And what happens next? Well, I've seen it more times than I can count. I remember the first time Paul tried it. He followed my advice. A small glass of water with a baking soda, nothing else in his stomach, and then a quiet walk around the block before heading to bed. He didn't expect fireworks. He just wanted to feel something. The next morning, he called me. His voice was quiet, almost cautious. "Doc," he said, "I don't want to get ahead of myself, but something felt different last night. I felt warmer, calmer. I actually slept through the night." That was night one. By the 10th day, he didn't need to call me. He just walked into my office, stood a little taller, and smiled. "Doc," he said, I had a morning erection for the first time in over a year. I forgot what that felt like. And he wasn't alone. Men over 60 often think their best days are behind them. But what they don't realize is that so much of their struggle isn't about age. It's about chemistry. And when you shift that chemistry, even slightly, the results can come faster than you'd ever expect. The baking soda trick works not because it's magical, but because it restores the conditions under which your body already knows how to thrive. It reduces inflammation. It supports nitric oxide. It relaxes the inner lining of your blood vessels. And above all, it creates the internal ease that erections require. And when that ease returns, so does sensation. So does confidence. So does that quiet internal voice that says, yes, I still got it. But that was only the beginning. Because as powerful as baking soda can be, and we'll talk more about how to use it safely later on, I discovered something even more potent when paired with it. Another ingredient, another method, one that worked alongside the chemistry to actually restore function on a deeper level. You see, while baking soda helps clear the fog, the next method I'm going to share helps light the spark. And when those two things happen together, clarity and ignition, that's when the transformation really begins. So stay with me, because what happened next for Paul, and what's happened for hundreds of my other patients, might just be the turning point you've been hoping for. I still remember the look in Joseph's eyes when he came into my office. He was 70 years old, recently widowed, and carried himself like a man who had lived a full life, but whose body had quietly let go of something he hadn't realized how much he missed. He sat down, folded his hands, and said, "Doc, I just don't feel anything anymore. I'm not depressed, I'm not sick, but it's like there's a silence down there, a kind of emptiness." He wasn't just talking about erections. He was talking about connection, about sensation, that warm current that once ran through him. Now just a flicker, if that. And that's when I shared with him the second method. You see, after restoring internal balance with baking soda, we still had to address the tissues themselves, the actual structure of the groin, where blood flow had slowed and sensitivity had dulled. For that, I turned to something both ancient and shockingly modern in its effects. Castor oil. Yes, that thick, golden oil you might remember from your grandmother's pantry. But this wasn't about old remedies or folklore. It was about biology, about the power of this oil to penetrate deep into tissues, reduce inflammation, break down internal plaque, and stimulate blood flow in a way that pills simply can't. I call castor oil the circulatory whisper, because unlike medications that force the body to respond, castor oil gently reminds the tissue what it used to do, how to receive blood, how to pulse, how to feel alive. Here's how we used it. I gave Joseph a small bottle of cold-pressed, hexane-free castor oil and instructed him to apply it generously to his lower abdomen and groin every evening. Not directly on the penis, but all around it, the inner thighs, the pubic area, and especially over the lower belly where the pelvic arteries lie. Then, I told him to place a warm cloth over the area just for 20 minutes. No pressure, just warmth, just stillness. I told him, this is not a chore. This is a ritual, a moment of care, not just for your body, but for your manhood, your confidence, your connection to yourself. He nodded quietly, said he'd give it a try. 10 days later, he came back and sat down without a word. Then he smiled. "Doc," he said, "I know this is going to sound strange, but I felt something, like a pulse, a warmth. I woke up this morning and I felt like my body remembered me." That's exactly what castor oil can do. It doesn't create arousal. It restores access. It breaks up the plaque that narrows tiny arteries. It relaxes the fascia, the connective tissue that becomes stiff with age. And most importantly, it awakens the nerves that once carried so much sensation, so much pleasure, so much identity. I've seen this time and time again. Men who thought they were beyond recovery, who had given up on pleasure, connection, even hope, begin to notice a shift. Not always dramatic at first, but noticeable. A warmth, a twitch, a new sense of presence down there. One man, Harold, 72, told me, "I didn't expect fireworks document, but I was brushing my teeth, and suddenly I could feel that part of myself again, like it was still alive, like I was still me." That's the beauty of this method. It's not a trick. It's not a hack. It's a reconnection. And when you pair it with the baking soda method from part 3, it creates a synergy. One clears the path, the other stokes the fire. And here's what's even more powerful. Castor oil doesn't just support blood flow. It actively breaks down internal scar tissue, the kind that forms from years of inflammation, microtrauma, or even past surgeries. That's especially important for men with mild curvature or discomfort during intimacy. The oil gently softens that tissue, restoring flexibility, restoring shape, restoring comfort. Now, I want to be clear, this isn't an overnight miracle. It's a practice, a process. But for the men who stay with it, even just a few weeks, the changes are profound. So let me ask you, how long has it been since you felt truly present in your own body? Since you felt sensation down there without strain, without shame, without needing help from a bottle? Because that presence is still possible. That fire isn't gone. It's just waiting to be nourished, to be touched with kindness, not frustration, with patience, not panic. And it starts with something as simple as warming oil in your own 2 hands. In the final part of this video, I'll show you exactly how to apply these methods, share one more inspiring success story, and explain the mistakes most men make when trying these techniques and how to avoid them. You're almost there, and I can't wait to show you what's next. So now that you understand both methods, the baking soda drink before bed and the castor oil circulation ritual, let me show you exactly how to apply them, step by step, and what results you can expect. First, the baking soda method. Just before bed, mix half a teaspoon of pure baking soda into a glass of lukewarm water. Drink it slowly on an empty stomach. No food for at least 2 hours beforehand. Then, take a short walk, even just around your home, to encourage gentle blood flow. Now the castor oil. 3 to 5 nights a week, pour a teaspoon of cold-pressed castor oil into your palm and massage into the lower belly, inner thighs, and groin. Don't rush. Think of it like tuning your body. Then place a warm, damp cloth over the area for 15 to 20 minutes. Sit quietly. Breathe. Let the warmth do the work. One of my patients, Leonard, 69, did exactly this for a month. By week 2, he said he was sleeping deeper. By week 3, his morning erections were back. But it was week 4 when his wife leaned in and said, "You're different lately. Softer here," she touched his chest, "and stronger here," as she looked into his eyes. That's the power of restoring flow. It affects more than just the body. Another man, Arturo, a retired Navy cook in his 70s, sent me an email I'll never forget. He said, "Doc, after using the oil and the baking soda, I didn't just feel more alive down there. I felt proud of myself again, like I was showing up for my body." Science backs this up. Studies show that baking soda supports nitric oxide levels and helps reduce internal acidity, both of which enhance circulation. Castor oil has been shown to break down fibrosis and improve lymphatic flow, essential for reducing swelling and encouraging nutrient delivery to the groin. Now, a few common mistakes I see. Don't overdo the baking soda. Stick with half a teaspoon, max, or you'll risk upsetting your digestion. And don't use cold castor oil straight from the bottle. Always warm it gently for deeper absorption. Also, never apply castor oil directly to the head of the penis. Focus on the surrounding tissue. To recap, If you're ready to restore your strength, sensation, and connection, start tonight. Just one spoon, just one moment of care. And remember, your body hasn't given up. It's just been waiting for you to say, I'm ready to come back. If you want more methods like these, go ahead and like this video, subscribe, and comment the number 1 so I know you're interested. I'm Dr. Edward. I've been where you are, and I promise you, the journey back to vitality doesn't begin in a clinic. It begins right there at home with one small act of care, and it only gets better from here.